10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird!
It's a plane!
There's no need to fear.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
Hey everybody! Welcome back to Super Black, an all-black panel podcasting experience where we talk about all things superhero, past, present, and future. From Marvel and DC to anime, there is no stone we will leave unturned as we take a deep dive into the genre of superpowered individuals and the worlds they inhabit. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Zuri Washington. I use she, her pronouns, and you can follow me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. That's Zuri with a Z, not Suri with an S. I'll leave it to the rest of today's super panel to introduce themselves. Take it away.
This is Rose Andre, and you can find me on Instagram at Rollsie, Rollsie, actor, comic book nerd, lover of pop culture. Here I am. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is James. You can follow me at Jamal James on Instagram. You can also follow me on TikTok at Better Magic. I am an actor and overall comic book nerd here to talk.
Hi, everybody. Omar Washington here. He, him pronouns. You can follow me on Twitter at Copyright. That's COPERYTE. Comic book fan of movies, sci-fi, fantasy, all that good stuff. Ready to have fun.
Hey, Corinne Scott, she, her pronouns. You can find me on Instagram at I am Corinne Scott, 1 R, 2 N's, and an E. I have opinions. Thank you.
And as always, don't forget to follow the podcast itself at Super Black Podcast on IG, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. But now that we are all assembled, let's get started. So today we have a very special guest. You may know him best as Carl Pinckney on Fox's Gotham, or perhaps as Hutch from the short-lived but supremely epic Netflix-produced Millarverse series, Jupiter's Legacy. Please, panel, give a warm welcome to Ian Quinlan. Thanks for coming out today, or coming out. We're in our houses. What am I talking about?
Well, I got dressed.
You got dressed. That counts. You're basically outside.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. I know that we went to school together. I'm not gonna be like, oh, thanks for what. We went to school together. You're a few years older than me, and I always have looked up to you as a fellow actor. And I remember when I saw you on Broadway in The Lion King, because you were young Simba back in the day. And what a time that was for me, because that started my love of all things theatrically related, of course. So it's so good to have you here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you speak more, because I know you're from Queens. Can you speak to being a New York City kid and growing up here in the city?
Oh yeah. I mean, what's to say? I mean, this city makes you grow up fast. Obviously, I think there's just so much to do and so much to see as a kid. Especially being on Broadway at a very early age, that was pretty wild and eye-opening, and getting to experience theater and the epitome of being on a Broadway New York theater is pretty epic and wild. We went to a pretty rigorous high school and middle school that was super academic. It's basically a Gossip Girl school. It's mentioned in 3 places. It's mentioned in The Devil Wears Prada, American Psycho, and I forget where else, or if it gives you any. We basically went to Slytherin.
We basically went to Slytherin. I mean, that's not wrong. He's completely correct.
The city gave me a deep appreciation for art and culture, and yeah, I just love the city.
What is the thing that most inspires you to continue? Because you also have gotten into directing in your adulthood. What continues to inspire you to go further into the arts and dig deeper?
I sort of see myself as sort of like a storyteller in general, and that doesn't necessarily have to be telling that story from the position of acting. I think and that's something I really enjoy. I like being as a director, I feel like I'm the first audience member, so I get to watch other people do things. I'm like, oh, that would be awesome, and just like kind of affirm and like very much encourage, and then watch the thing come to life and help guide whenever necessary. Like helping, especially when it comes to new plays, I like working with playwrights and like helping them develop, like working together to develop the story. Like I'll try to bring what they wrote to life, or sometimes we'll have to like unpack with them. Like, can you tell me more about what you're trying to convey here, so we can like help bring this to life, you know? And I think, yeah, like that's kind of a dream of mine. It's always been to be like an actor, director, writer, producer, because I just like the idea of telling stories about human nature. And I think it's the art of empathy. I think it's about like learning about why we do what we do and how we relate to one another. And yeah, I just find like any way I can help contribute to that awesome collaborative experience is like, I'm happy to wear many hats.
So I keep thinking, because in my family, I'm a well-known Gotham hater, and that's only because
What?
I love Batman.
Thanks so much. This has been great.
Listen, I love Batman with my entire heart and soul, but there was something about Gotham that supremely bothered me, which was specifically just the bringing in of villains, certain villains, way too early in the mythos. And so that continued to bother me as the series went on. There were great performances. I loved like the grandiosity of it all. I bring that up only to say you talk about human nature and exploring human nature. And I think what Batman in general does, and what Gotham still did pretty well, was exploring the human nature of these villains and how they grew to be so like these big bads that we know today. And so what was your experience like working on Gotham and being Carl Pinckney, what was his title as a detective? Or
he wanted to be a detective eventually, but he only made it to officer. He was like fresh out of the academy, kind of like part of a new SWAT team.
Right.
Yeah. So he was like a specialized officer, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I loved about Gotham specifically. First of all, I do love Batman. I especially love the villains of Batman. I think, you know, as opposed to Superman's villains are really just like strong dudes who heard that there's a strong dude on Earth and come to fight the strong dude. In which case, like, why doesn't Superman just leave? Because he's kind of he's the main problem. You know, except for Lobo. Lobo is the coolest Superman villain because he refers to himself not even as in third person, but as the main man, which I'm obsessed. But the Batman villains are all really interesting because they all have a message about like they are the chaos that's sort of like the Batman's like law and order and his sort of rules, especially the Joker. I think he's constantly challenging what we think and what values we hold in society. And I think that's just like he's like by always giving us like, especially Heath Ledger's Joker was like constantly giving people a Sophie's choice to sort of challenge them of like, what do you actually hold dear? You know, he says like soldiers die all the time, but I want to kill a mayor, one little mayor, and everybody goes crazy. You know, what I loved about Gotham was that we sort of start to explore the theatricality that we bring to that show was like really amazing. Like one of the things about the costumes was to give it this timeless effect, everything is borrowed from different decades. So like my uniform is styled from the FBI fighters or SWAT team from the 80s, but my hairstyle is from the 50s. And the guns are from today. That's why you'll see some people with like flip phones, but then also like rotary phones. So it gives this sort of like timeless theatricality, because I think it's like that's what we're trying to show, that these things kind of happen all throughout the decades. I really did love working with like Corey was amazing as the Riddler. I think he's just like super calculated and super funny. Like he brought a little bit of like humor to the role that I didn't think was like that I never didn't really see with Riddler before. Am I answering your question or am I just rambling?
Oh, both. I love all of the above.
Just want to say, Ian, if it makes you feel any better, as a member of her family, I actually like Gotham.
Thank you very much. You have good taste. That's just, you know what I mean? I think.
Listen,
is it a compliment if it's just obvious? You know, Zuri, I don't know.
Listen, we could get into this conversation another day, but I still stand by my distaste for certain aspects of Gotham. I love the performances. The performances are great. I cannot fault the performances. That's not my gripe with the show. Yeah. I have other gripes with the show, but that's because I'm a huge Batman nerd And I just was like, I don't know if I like Leslie and Jim Gordon getting together. I don't know if I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
For me, I think once I got it in my head that it had to be an alternate universe because I had a problem with it at first as well, right? Because I was like, this is not accurate. What? But I said, you know what? This has to be an alternate universe. This cannot be. They have all these villains that are popping up way before Batman ever came about, and that makes no sense. Not to that level. And I said, so it has to be an alternate universe. And once I looked at it from that vein, it was fine.
Gotcha.
I thought it was good, except till they got to the Joker.
Oh, you didn't like?
And then didn't
I love Jerome.
really. He was wonderful. No. But don't get me wrong. He was wonderful. His performance is great. But I don't think they were like kind of like, no, he's not the Joker. Like they kept like backpedaling on it. And I was like, is that really the Joker? Because I think it was good. I don't mind the Riddler being a little older than Batman. I don't mind the Penguin being a little older than Batman. But the Joker, I think, should kind of be in his whatever. And I thought, oh, they did it, and then they backpedaled from it. I was like, oh, that kind of
alternate universe, and it works.
Yeah, I really liked all those iterations of whether you want Joker or like just Jerome or Cameron. Like I thought he was just fantastic. Yeah,
he was wonderful.
Like
he was wonderful.
It's hard for me to talk about this show because I felt so many different things as Zuri has said like it, and there are times that I have liked it, but I have a lot of thoughts about that show.
Listen, make your coin.
But like Corey's work as the Riddler is Corey's work as the Riddler is one of the best things about that show, and I love that show because of his work.
Yeah,
that's where I feel. I feel about the writing, but I don't feel like there should be Joker twins. But that's like it's just feel about it. But the actors who are there are doing great. We're doing great work.
Yeah,
they were doing great.
Yeah,
work.
like opera level acting.
Yeah,
we also didn't have you on here to tell you all the problems we have with Gotham.
No, I didn't mean to start a train. I did not mean to start a train. I only mentioned it because I'm being honest, and I'm not gonna lie to everybody and be like whatever. But your like all performances were great, and your experience of the show is really informative to me about like how the world came about, because I didn't know like where all the different pieces came from or why there was a rotary phone in one scene and a flip phone in another. I love hearing stuff like that. Like that makes the world more engaging and interesting to me in the building of the lore. So like, thank you for that.
Sure. I wanted to ask, how did you get into nerddom?
Oh,
what is your origin story?
Oh my gosh. I think I've just always liked comic books and like, I mean, growing up with the Batman cartoon,
the animated series.
The animated series was like wild. Like I think Phantom Menace like got me really hooked. I was like, was that what it's called? No.
The first
something.
The Mask of the Phantasm.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Like when they came, that was because I was in theaters when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I was like, they make movies too. I was yes. And like, because that one was like dark for kids. Yeah. Super scary. Like the Clayface episode is like terrifying.
So good.
Baby doll who's like staring at her adult self. It's like there was some adult stuff in that cartoon. And I was like, this is deep. And, like this is so. And I was like, comic books.
Batgirl dies, and
so we're talking about like the.
That is.
The Killing Joke?
I don't think they did that in the animated series.
No, they didn't do that in the animated series. Or
yes, they did. They did.
She died.
It
might be a dream.
Over the Edge episode. It's for
it
when
might be a scarecrow thing.
The Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series. Then they had Batman and the animated series, and like it's like right when the animation changed a little bit.
Oh, when that animation changed, right?
Gotcha.
When the animation changed, when they were still doing Batman stories with Kevin Conroy and Mark.
But that was a scarecrow
thing called Over the Edge.
That's a scarecrow thing where
she didn't really.
No, she didn't really die. But she died, and then Gordon went after Batman because he's like, I've known who you were this whole time, and you killed my daughter, and that was like.
It was dark. It was like,
yeah. Yeah, but I think it's like they were just like those series were really, the stories were amazing, and then the Michael Keaton movies, like Danny DeVito as Penguin.
Oh my
those
God.
those were like Shakespeare level performances, and like Jack Nicholson as the original Joker. I was like, this is wild, and so there was just so much cool stuff growing up, and then I just kind of got hooked, and then in high school I started reading a lot more comics. I just like started buying a lot. Like I was like I had to cut back because I was like. Remember when they were doing like House of M at Marvel? That's when Marvel started their whole marketing ploy of like to get the whole understanding of the universe, you have to get all of these like special issues. And then, yeah. And I got deep into like when they had the reporters reporting on Civil War. Like they like this, when the reporters got their own story arcs and like there was one like conservative news journalist and one like liberal one. I bought both of those. I was like
R.I.P. my allowance.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm spending a lot of money on this, and I should stop.
What was the first comic you ever bought? Do you remember?
Oh man, yikes! I don't remember my first comic. I should, because I was like, in the beginning, I was like, tertially really like buying comics. I wasn't like, yeah. So I can't really remember my first like. The one that like I loved the most was the Secret War, where like they were like Daredevil, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Captain America, and Wolverine all go to what is it, Latveria where Doctor Doom is from. Yeah, and it's like and like the painting, like they were painted pictures. So like the graphics on them were just freaking gorgeous. I'm just obsessed with that whole arc. I bought all the holographic ones, like kept them like in mint condition, like for years. Yeah. What about y'all? You got a favorite comic or a favorite?
I mean mine is I started reading Miss Marvel. So with Kamala Khan, and that has brought me a lot of joy. It's so interesting. Our last episode, we were just talking about how it's more, or for us at least, it's more engaging to experience a superhero as a teenager and to see them grow up rather than someone who is already grown, and to see their progression from, like mid-40s forward. Because as a human being, so many of our life changes happen within 15 years of being 18. I mean, you graduate high school, you go to college. Traditionally wise, you meet a partner, you get married, you have kids, you get a job, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, right now with Ms. Marvel, she's still very much in high school. But Loki came and visited. That was fun.
Oh, wow. Spoiler alert.
I was just gonna say that for me, I think I like Ian. I used to read comics when I was a little boy, and then when I finally discovered one franchise, like one group, it was the X-Men. And the first comic book I bought was X-Men 172. And I spent thousands of dollars like after that, like because I bought this one comic book. And it was a golden era, it was like Chris Claremont on the X-Men, and it was amazing, amazing stuff. So that's what made me a collector.
I have a quick question for Ian. Of the stuff that's going around right now with superheroes, are you a big Marvel fan, or are you a big DC fan, or are you a bit of both right now? Like, what's your bread and butter? Is there anything that you've been watching or seen recently that's like, oh yeah?
Yeah, I'm like loving the Marvel universe right now. I just saw Hawkeye I had to quarantine a few weeks back, and like caught up on Hawkeye, which was like Home Alone for adults. have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Like Marvel is at least able to make fun of itself a little bit more than DC is, which I really enjoy. Like when Taika Waititi took over Thor, I was like, thank you. Thank you. Somebody like Space God can like actually be a funny take, and love Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm obsessed with them. Like I think it's just so funny. I think it's just like 80s Space Cowboys is definitely my jam. Music is great. Though I will say I'm obsessed with Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I will watch all of those movies. That movie had everything. That movie was Baywatch, Jurassic Park.
Not Baywatch.
Wow.
Wow. 40 and then jumping into the ocean. Baywatch.
You just needed more slow motion for that one, right?
Yeah, it's like The Rock with like Journey to the Center of the Earth. We got that. Like with hair. It had Pirates of the Caribbean. It was everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not mad at Jason Momoa.
No, I loved his work in that movie. It's big.
Yeah. He's like, I think it's like that to me was like, yeah, now we're in the right direction. Although like also I love Ben Affleck Batman because Ben Affleck Batman is a great Bruce Wayne. People like
controversial
the reason
opinion.
why, yeah, like people believe that Bruce Wayne is Batman, like people believe Ben Affleck wrote half of Good Will Hunting. Like he was there, but like I know he was in the same room, but like I don't know.
You like Ben Affleck. You like Ben Affleck. You like Ben Affleck Batman in what movie? Because they were kind of different.
I mean, like, I think he should have gotten his own movie eventually. Because like I think it's just funny because he plays a great Bruce Wayne, which is like, remember when he's like sneaking in Batman v Superman, and he's like sneaking into Lex Luthor's like party, and then the security guard finds him. He's like, "Hey, like, you single?" And she's like, "Get out of my face!" Like that's what Bruce Wayne does. That's the facade of Bruce Wayne, and I think he played that. He's played that the best of all of the Batmans. You know what I mean? That like he's just this bro. He's this Boston bro.
Ian, I'm wondering, is there a role you want to play in the Marvel or DC universe? Is there something in there?
There is a fan when I was doing Jupiter's Legacy posted like they wanted me to play Jason Todd, which I would love to play.
Oh, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I would love that.
Y'all heard it here first. We're starting a campaign.
Yeah.
If they ever adapt that storyline, yes.
Yeah, right?
I know they started doing it on, is it on Titans?
Yeah.
Or, they started doing it on Titans.
Out there. That's a DC person, a Marvel person. I'm trying to think. Because there aren't many biracial superheroes out there.
If you're telling me.
You know what I mean? Are you biracial?
I looked at the
do they not touch on enough people's backgrounds for you to know?
Well,
I mean I remember when the first Iron Man came out and I Googled biracial superheroes and I was scrolling and I don't remember anyone coming up. The first time I saw myself on screen was in Thor, the best one, the only one, with Tessa Thompson. And I was like, oh, finally, I see myself. But canon-wise, in the comics, she is not mixed.
Right.
But even Miles Morales didn't exist until 2011. So a lot of these characters have come about in the last 10 years, literal 10 years, not when we were kids.
I would also, if they would have me, I'd love to play Aqualad in the next Aquaman movie.
I was literally going to say, I was like, Aqualad, you know? Say Aqualad.
Yeah. So it'd be so awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I see the resemblance.
I was so glad when they had Aqualad in Young Justice.
Yes.
And really delved into his storyline in the context of the Atlantean civil wars and things that are happening. I don't know what's happening in Atlantis sometimes, but yeah, I think Aqualad would be really good.
Does he have blue hair in Young Justice?
I think it's
blonde.
He's blonde.
White.
I have not watched the new season. I'm not gonna lie.
There's two Aqualads in Young Justice. There's like,
I guess that's true.
Well, he became Aquaman. No, one of them became Aquaman.
Yeah.
Calder is his name. Calder, right?
Calder, yeah,
he's
awesome.
I'm not sure about the second one though. I can't remember what he.
That was like the original one who becomes like Tempest later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been hard for me to pin down the storyline actually. Sometimes they deal with a lot with time and a lot of people.
They're jumping all over the place.
Yes, they are.
They're everywhere. Like there's two seasons worth of arcs happening simultaneously right now.
Yeah.
There's like the whole thing that happened on Mars, and like the Legionnaires from the future, and then spoiler alert, and then there's this whole thing with magic and mystery aplenty. Yeah.
I'm trying to see where that left off.
But anyway,
4 years ago.
speaking of going back to Jupiter's Legacy, I was so when you had announced, or when they started putting up all the promotion material for Jupiter's Legacy, and I was like, wow, I know someone who's basically like a super person, like that, or has like super identity history within the context of a greater universe.
Yeah.
For those who have not, for listeners who have not yet seen Jupiter's Legacy, again, it's on Netflix, and it will be on Netflix in perpetuity. And I wish they could have a second season so we could see what the heck happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta
Yeah.
read
Yeah, I gotta read the comic.
I like the show. I
Thank
you
you.
know I did. I liked the show when I first saw it. I mean, the first episode I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced at first. It looked a little campy or whatever, but then afterward, for some reason, it took hold, and I think the mystery of the island, and the character, the betrayal of the friend, like that was a story I really wanted to see play out. I really wanted to see that play out. So,
Yeah.
but it was great. It was great. And it was kind of unique, I guess, as superhero powers go, superhero origins, because it wasn't just one superhero getting its power from a source. It was a group,
Yeah.
and it's very different. Very different. It's and powers bestowed from it's almost like powers bestowed from
Like
like an alien race, kind of like
Power
Quasar.
Ranger or Power Rangers.
Yeah, Power Rangers or
Yeah.
Quasar. Somebody gives you these
yeah.
powers so that you can go forth and be guardians or whatever. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you speak more to your experience working in the Millarverse, because that's a whole other thing, right? We usually talk about DC and Marvel, and but the Millarverse is starting to get some shine in the last like 5 years or so, like because
It's coming up for sure.
the Kingsman, which I was watching the other day, and I was like, oh crap, I forgot that this is the Millarverse too, and Kick-Ass, and yeah, it's really getting some shine in the last like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think, like, it's great. I mean, it's like to be on it was pretty epic being on the, pioneering pilot project to launch this new company that's trying to be like, Millarverse is trying to like compete now with Marvel and DC. So we really were like very excited to we thought at the time we were like, we're about to do something very huge. And, it made a big splash. It just didn't have a long lasting splash, ripple effect. But yeah, I really like Mark Millar's work. Like growing up, I read a lot of his stuff when he was working at Marvel, and I like the subject matters that he was dealing with. It was like how do I describe it? I like he deals with comics. I mean, with superheroes and how they function in society, specifically in with like politics and governing. And where's the line between like the people who have power but submit themselves to authority of government, and like in order to like maintain some sort of semblance of equality, or like some semblance of rules and regulations, but like that was the whole thing of like what are our values, who are we, and how do we want to live our lives, because like these superheroes, like their children were lacking in any sort of morals and were ready to like take over the world because they could, and
Right.
so, and I like that he that's where he sort of starts to deal with values. And like, yeah, I really enjoyed working on that. It was like, and I loved being able to first be like a biracial superhero, and then also be not necessarily a hero, but an anti-hero, and be sort of like the constant challenger to all of these ideals, and just be like the free radical. It was a blast.
Was Mark Millar directly involved at all? Did y'all get to pick his brain or do anything along those lines?
No, he was around for the beginning, but I only came in second quarter of shooting.
Oh, sure.
There was a whole pre-production section for like all the superheroes to get superhero fit and everything that happened before I showed up. So I think he was around for the beginning. They all got to meet and greet, and then like he was living in Scotland the whole time and like watching from a distance and giving notes to production. Yeah. But we still talk. Like he's very active. Like he was always like hitting us up and available for notes or whatever. Yeah.
That's so cool. Because like
That's
in the grand scope of like all these universes, most of the people who started the big ones are dead, and so to be able to have that source is really great. Yeah, so that's amazing.
Super cool.
I think the problem, because I want to echo Omar's sentiments of saying that I feel like the show was canceled far too early.
Premature, yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a
prematurely.
3rd season of Emily in Paris. Or
I don't want to
something.
talk about
Don't
it.
even get me started.
She's still in Paris.
Is
Oh
she
my
still
God.
there? Get out.
Is she still
Get on
looking
a
for
plane.
love? Is she still looking for the person? And I'm just like, my brain is like, I actually was hurt a little bit when Cowboy Bebop got canceled, because I think that there is less opportunity for people to be like, oh, let's explore rich storytelling, let's explore new storytelling, instead of just giving, like, if you think that a show needs to find its footing, great, give them time. I don't give footing to shows that you already know what to expect. Like, that's where I'm like, I need more surprises. And I feel like sometimes Netflix can just shoot itself in the foot being like, oh, we don't know what this is yet. And I'm like, you should find out. Find out. Mark Millar, but he did write the story arc for Civil War.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That still to me is one of the quintessential like arcs of comic books, like for life for me. Like I love that arc between Iron Man and Captain America. It's one of my favorites. But I wish that Netflix would take a little bit would be fine with more experimentation sometimes. And I felt that way with the show. That's how I felt with the show.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that like there's so much superhero stuff that now it's like people have like, these bean counters. They can be like, well, this movie made this much money, this series made this much money in this much time. And now they're just impatient. It's like, if you're not gonna like, I'm not saying they're judging it on quality. I'm saying they're judging it in terms of economy. Like they're like, superhero series cost a lot of money to make, and if it's not like getting like major rave, lose it. And I'm not saying I think that's a good idea. I hate that. I hate that there's like so much stuff out there that people are just like kind of like they're not taking time to let it mature, to let the audience find it,
Ugh, capitalism.
I think business comes first in those.
I mean,
Not
shows
enough
like Young
viewers.
Justice were made to sell toys. The
What?
Yeah, Young Justice was originally made to sell toys.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, I'm so sorry. I'm on my phone because my computer battery died, so you're cut off. I can only see like this much of your face.
You mean they're just manipulating me? They don't care about the art?
What?
What?
But no, I remember when I was reading about that, like they were like, oh, we need to sell toys. It wasn't like they were like, oh, we need to make a series. The purpose was to sell toys. How can we sell more toys?
For what? For what show?
For Young
Justice,
Justice.
the animated series that was on Cartoon Network,
which is great.
Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, but the overarching purpose of that show was to sell toys.
And then when they canceled it, people were like, adults were just mad. All adults were mad.
I was mad.
You knew it. You knew the audience was the one showing up to watch that show. It wasn't the kids. It wasn't the kids. It was people who grew up on Batman the Animated Series. It was. Our
it was more Batman Beyond than it was.
I would love to be the Batman protege to like an old Michael Keaton. Like I would like to be Terry McGinnis.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
And
Batman be.
Let's all put that in the universe too.
Okay.
I was
two campaigns.
Let's start that campaign. I'm down for that campaign.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
with the Batman?
An old Michael Keaton Bruce Wayne?
Hell yeah!
It's coming. He's coming.
It'd be awesome.
In the series, he has a cane, right? He walks with a cane.
Yeah, he walks with a cane.
Yeah.
But he's in the Flash. He will show up in the Flash. Michael Keaton will show up in the Flash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he will.
Yes. Yeah. They're the idea is that Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck will both show up as Batman in the Flash, because apparently they're trying to. The Flash might adapt Flashpoint, maybe. I don't know.
Oh no!
Well, they have to
get
change
this
some things now, though,
idea
right?
from?
Because Cyborg won't be in it, right? They have to change some.
Cyborg would not be in it.
No, at least not that actor.
Yeah,
I
probably
think
not.
they cut
Probably not at all.
Cut the character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I know in a different interview, Ian, that you had kind of going back to the Shakespeare of it all, you had said something along the lines of that you think that superhero shows are like Shakespeare, and that we'll always find new takes on these stories because superhero shows explore the idea that we can collectively be something greater than ourselves. What would you say? My first part of my question is, what superhero for you do you think exemplifies that the most,
Mm.
for your money anyway? And then also, what about their journey makes what they have to overcome so attract you?
Mm. Yeah. That's a good question. So with one thing that I really like, this one line in Superman Returns, which nobody needs to see again. It's not.
Except for the plane sequence. That plane sequence is bomb.
Yeah, that's
Sequence
true.
is
Yeah.
great.
But it's where after Superman's been gone for a few years because he went to go find Krypton, and he comes back to Earth, and basically Lois Lane has been saying why the world doesn't need Superman, and like she's been putting that in the Daily Planet a lot, like clearly upset that he left. And she says like, yeah, it's an article of why the world doesn't need a savior. And then like he picks her up for a date, and then he flies her up to the top of the city, and he says, listen. And she's like, I don't hear anything. And he says, I do. He says, you claim the world doesn't need a savior, but every day I hear somebody crying out for one. And I was like, yeah, it's wild that this dude sort of has to navigate. How do you navigate that? You know, like I think Marvel did a version of Superman with the Sentry, where it's like the man's villain is his own crushing guilt, that because he can do everything, he has to do everything. And so when he has to make these difficult choices, or when he fails, he really suffers, and sometimes he can't get out of bed in the morning because he's living with his own mistakes. Same thing with like Batman, of like, I think Batman is constantly challenged as he's trying to do good in the world. He's challenged by all of the villains to who sort of have been inspired by him in a different way. Some of these villains were inspired by Batman and then are trying to be the counterpoint. And I think he's constantly reconciling with like, am I doing the right thing? Am I handling this the right way? Is this what I'm supposed to be? Is this where I'm supposed to be? You know, I think that for me was the joke at the end of the Joker, is that like Bruce Wayne was the Prince of Gotham, and then he became the Clown Prince of Gotham. And it's like he basically turned Bruce Wayne into himself, thinking that Bruce Wayne's going to grow up to be him, and then like flip the table. Was my interpretation at the end. And I feel like that's kind of true. They're like Joker is constantly trying to show that they're the same person, which is really scary for Batman, I think,
Right.
And I think that to Jupiter's Legacy as well. Sorry if I keep going. I just this is what I mean. Like all of this, all of these superheroes are wrestling with trying to do something great. And like with Utopian, it's like all my life I've done the right thing, and one day I woke up and everybody hates me. I've lost my best. Like I've done the right thing all my life, but now I've lost my best friend. My marriage is suffering. My kids hate me, and now the people I've been saving my entire life are turning their backs on me. Like, what did I do? But at the same time, like, people, like, same thing back to Superman. Like, people are crying out for help. A lot of people stepped up during the pandemic, for example. Because a lot of people needed some help. That's my kind of a take. I think that's what I'm drawn to about superheroes, and what the kind of superheroes that speak to me in moments in comics that have spoken to me.
I think we had a whole episode about what makes a superhero. And I think we talk about this in part, but I think you articulated more specifically the crushing weight of expectation is something that they all have to contend with on a day-to-day basis. And it's one thing to, in your personal life, to have, if you're Bruce Wayne and you're with some high socialite, you're like, okay, the expectation of my girlfriend. But then as Batman, as an entity, as a thought, and as an ideal, you have the entire weight of Gotham and its destruction or salvation on your shoulders. So I think that's really a really fascinating thing to follow with each individual superhero that we've discussed and will discuss in the future. So thank you for adding that to our continued conversation.
I just think that they were very lucky that it wasn't Rolls L who came from like Krypton, because I would have been like, I'm the strongest MFer on this planet.
You're
Oh
saying
I'm
my
feeling
goodness.
shit. I'm going.
Rose L.
Like, I would not have been like, hey, how about I help these people?
Here is a question for Ian. Ian, if
Yeah.
you had one, only one, because I'm actually surprised I never asked this question to everybody here. But like Ian, if you had one superpower, just one, what would you say is yours?
Oh, okay. So here's my other question. When everybody asks me this, the counter question is: do other people have powers? Do I live in a world of people with powers?
Ooh, this is a good question.
Or is it just me having a power?
Why not?
Good
Why
question.
not?
Good question.
Why
What?
not? Why not?
Like, so
Yeah,
so it's
everyone's
just me.
got
It's
powers,
like
but
maybe
they
there are
got,
others
like,
out there, but I don't know about them.
Yeah.
Oh, I want teleportation still. Like I still want
Oh.
I want that jumper life. You know what I mean? I want to go anywhere, just like turn around. But I want mine to be like classy. I don't need all the electricity. I want it to feel like I'm going behind a curtain. Like I just like go like this and I'm gone, or then I like come out and then back. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yes. Yeah.
Like a Nightcrawler.
Kind of, yeah. But I don't need to see where I'm going. I could literally just go there.
Just go there.
Damn. All
And,
right.
and
all
you
right.
could do
Safely.
like great distances.
Yeah, correct. I can just like go to France right now and I can go get Emily and be like, it's time to go home. It's like, home, bro. You're in the most romantic city, and you've been here for 3 seasons. You ain't found love yet. It's you. It's not the city. It's you.
It's you.
Emily. Next season is Emily in therapy.
You have a
It still rhymes.
you have a wealth of these available
Everybody, I
names.
wish you could see my face right now because I'm just like I'm just holding it because I'm dead. Okay, I'm breathing. Whew, dead. Bye, Emily. I kind of before we got you off today, I know that you've talked in a couple interviews about Doc Mason, and because we both went to Dalton, we both had Doc. We were obviously in his core classes. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Robert Mason was a math teacher at the Dalton School in middle school, 7th grade to be exact. And I think he was my first Black teacher. Was he your first Black
Yep.
teacher? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was so instrumental in, I love math because of Doc Mason, period. And he has been so instrumental in how I view myself as a Black human being. And I think his superpower was helping other people find their strengths, specifically when it came to math, but also making sure that, he called us all, he's like, call all the girls babies, and he always made sure that we were all taken care of because we were all his children, especially the kids of color, because he knew that we didn't have institutional support across the board. So I just wanted you to speak to Doc Mason as a superhero in his own sense of the word.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, heroes, sometimes being a hero isn't just like saving the day, or it's not like being in the press for doing something remarkable. Sometimes you can be a hero just doing everyday tasks. And in this case, sorry, I get a little emotional. In this case, it's a guy who just helped a kid make sure he ensured that he would pass math, which I was in the Lion King at the time. And so I had to miss math class on Wednesdays. So therefore he would meet up with me on Mondays so I'd have math twice on Monday. And the second math class was just a private class with him to either catch me up on what I missed, or to tell me what I'm going to miss, or to just help me because I was just bad at math in general. And because literally all of it was contingent, me being in the Lion King was contingent upon keeping my grades up. And math was really hard. And like also not being in school was like equally difficult too. And I was doing 5 out of the 8 shows every week, sometimes 2 on Sundays. So then imagine like going home, you're home at midnight. I'd show up at school at 8 in the morning with like makeup still on my face, like mascara. Like it looked like I got left at prom because I just had mascara. And I would be like sleeping in class. And so, yeah, so I think he was just like a real hero because like also, not for nothing, private schools aren't the most gentle to kids of color, at least back then. There wasn't a lot to ensure success, and so there was him taking a very special initiative to ensure that like I succeeded, what meant a lot, he's definitely a hero in my book.
Yeah. I just wanted to give some flowers to Dr. Mason, who's still doing his thing. But thank you so much for being here, Ian. We've had a really great time having you on and talking. Yeah,
it's so great. I could stay here for so long. I was going to ask everybody like, who's everybody's favorite Batman? But I was like,
my favorite Batman is Kevin Conroy. But
I know, right? There is.
Gotta give them jewels.
Kevin Conroy. Yeah.
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.
But yeah.
Agree.
But thanks for being here. First, tell us where we can find you on the interwebs so that everyone knows.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I'm at All I Do Is Quinn. And then you can find me on Twitter as well. Just find my name, Ian Quinlan. I'm on Blue Bloods this year. I'm on season 12 of Blue Bloods, so you can find me playing a cop once again. Yeah, so I'm around.
Omar Washington. You can find me on Twitter at Copyright. That's COPERYTE. Yeah, just having a great time, Ian. It was great having you. Loved your performances, and look forward to seeing more.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, Jamal James. You can follow me at the Jamal James on Instagram or Black Boy Jedi Magic on TikTok. Thank you for showing up, Ian. I appreciate that. All of your insight today was just great. Thank you. And excited for more.
Rolls Andre. You can find me on Instagram at Rollsie, I can't even spell my own name. ROLLSIE. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming in. And thank you. What an honor. Learned a lot learned a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name's Corinne Scott. You can find me on the Instagrams at I am Corinne Scott, 1 R, 2 N's, and an E. A lot of photos of my dog, Nebula, who I love, who's getting very whiny. Thank you for coming on, Ian. It's always nice to talk to another mixed race comic book nerd actor. There are not a lot of us.
True that.
Right?
And as always, don't forget to follow the podcast on IG at Super Black Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Super Podcast. You can let us know your thoughts. Tell us how you enjoyed Ian on Gotham and on anything else you've seen him on, because he's been on plenty of shows and movies over the years. So go check out his IMDb page if you're not sure what those are. My name is Zuri Washington. You can find me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. I use she, her pronouns. And as always, should you need heroes, we've got your back. We fear no topic we attack. If conversation is what you lack, you'll find it here with Super Black. Peace. Hey there, this is your current day friendly neighborhood host, and these are the conventions that are on the horizon. Every episode, we will be highlighting upcoming cons in the hopes that some of our listeners out there will be able to attend in person or online. This week, we want to give a shout out to 2. First up is Fan Expo Dallas in Dallas, Texas, happening June 17th to June 19th. The following con is the Toronto Comic Arts Festival, happening in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, from June 17th to June 19th. For more information on these cons, check out our IG page and follow the link there. Mask up and stay safe. Hope to see you there.